So good morning, evening or afternoon, depending on when you are tuning into this, which is the latest episode of our Susty Talk video series. This is an interview series designed to keep all of you guys connected throughout the pandemic and beyond, because although lockdown restrictions are starting to ease where the team edie are based, and in a lot of other places, I know a lot of us aren't to the stage where we are setting up meetings or going to conferences yet like we normally would be. So with all this in mind, we hope that these videos will help you stay connected and stay motivated in all things to do with sustainability and CSR. It is a pleasure to have Lisa Morden dialing in from the United States today. For those of you unaware of Lisa, she is Kimberly-Clark's Vice President for Sustainability and Safety. So thank you so much for taking the time today, Lisa.
It's my pleasure, Sarah. So glad to be here with you all.
Yeah, and you too. Where are you dialing in from today?
I am dialing in from just outside of Atlanta, Georgia today.
Fantastic. And I can see that you are working from home.
I am definitely working from home, and I will apologize if you hear barking dogs at any points in the event. Hopefully they are going to behave.
I'm sure we can excuse it. We've had our fair share of sort of baby and pet colleagues popping up in calls recently, so don't worry whatsoever. It would be great to hear a bit more about how yourself and the wider safety and sustainability teams have been working at this time.
Very great question. I think like many of the viewers today, we are very much with our staff organizations around the world, we're working from home. But it's because we are a manufacturer of some of those essential products. Bath tissue, there's been a little bit of a run on bath tissue, for example, right? Many of our operations are still running, and we've had to spend a lot of time with our teams ensuring that we're giving those folks in our manufacturing environments all the health, the support they need to keep our folks healthy and safe through the pandemic. So we've been highly engaged, but through a lot of great platforms like video conferencing, et cetera.
Yeah, we had Ecover and Method on for one of these talks a few weeks back, and I think that is a conception that everything has slowed down for everyone. And Tom over at Ecover was talking about how they'd actually had to completely shift everything because demand was just going like this.
It's so true that it's the supply chain resiliency becomes a really important consideration in times like this, and you really do learn where some of those key points of management need to be, as you have to be checking and adjusting as the dynamic changes all over the world, no doubt.
Of course. And I think it's the first time we've had you on for audio or video, at least since I've been at edie, which is 2 years. So it'd be great to introduce yourself to the audience, sort of tell us a little bit about your role and how you sit within the team and in the global operations.
Yeah, great question, Sarah. So I head our corporate and global safety and sustainability function, as you mentioned in the intro. And have the great privilege of leading some amazing sustainability and safety professionals within the team, some really deep subject matter experts that are incredibly passionate and very highly expert in their fields of study and practice. So they are a key part of how we begin to build strategies for safety and sustainability and integrate those into the operations strategies, mindsets, behaviors within our organization across the board. But it does not it doesn't all come together, it doesn't work unless we have a broad set of collaboration with our local teams and our regional teams, our country teams, to help bring some of those strategies and those initiatives to life. So it doesn't happen unless we have a broad network that's kind of operating towards the same mission and vision and bringing to life those initiatives that we've put on the table.
No, I covered earlier this week, there was a new report out from Forster Communications and essentially defining different types of sustainability leadership. And when we think of leadership, we often think of people with the big ideas or people that act as the sort of front for a campaign. But one of them was actually the wayfinder, the people that do all that work behind the scenes and have a specific series of expertise and are actually costing deliveries and getting the delivery done. So it's good to hear more about that, which I think will only become more important at the moment too.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I think our objective, of course, is to create positive social and environmental outcomes, but we have to do that in a way that actually benefits the business as well. So those folks that do all of the work to say, here's an approach that we could take, here's what it would cost, here's what the value and the return would look like, here's the benefit it creates externally. It's a big lift, a lot of work, and you really need to be quite good at it if you want to really progressively drive your agenda.
Mm-hmm. Right, and you spoke a lot there about strategy and how that sits and how it's developed and delivered. And we're speaking shortly after the new 2030 sustainability strategy was published. I'm sure a lot of people will be aware of that. I covered it on our site last week. And essentially the strategy builds on a previous strategy that was deadlined at 2022 after a lot of those aims were met ahead of time. It'd be great to get a little bit of insight about why 2030 was the chosen deadline date, what some of the targets are.
Yes, indeed. And 2022 was important for us when we set our goals because it's the company's 150th anniversary. So it really fit nicely, a very sustainable company really driving a sustainability related agenda as we go forward. But, we very clearly recognized as we progress those goals and began to achieve many of them, that the external context that we were operating in was changing very, very rapidly. No surprise to anybody on this call, I am sure. And we realized that many of the issues that we had been focusing on were still the right ones, and we'd built a great foundation for how to move forward and progress those goals. But they probably weren't leading enough. The bar is changing. The bar is moving. Consumers, customers, investors, other stakeholders have a more sophisticated understanding of the issues and have higher expectations as a result. And certainly, issues like single-use plastics in the environment really came on the agenda so quickly. It was something that CPG companies had been aware of for some time, but it became a really urgent issue in a very short period of time as the data became more available, right? So there was enough changing signals that sort of had us say, let's go back and take a look to be sure we have the right level of ambition in the organization and that we're being bold enough and aggressive enough in our expectations of ourselves. So 2030 became relevant because we wanted to really set a higher ambition, not necessarily certain how we achieve it. And in case Kimberly-Clark traditionally has been very data-driven, objectives-driven. So we do like interim goals and shorter-term targets so that we plan to see those, hit them, exceed them where it's appropriate, and then stretch them further where it makes sense. That's our typical modus operandi, I guess. Exceed expectations and then set a new, more aggressive, ambitious target. So that's where we are today.
Great. And I know that some of the new targets are around emissions, so there's some science-based emissions targets, but what else is in there for you? What are some of the key focus areas for your team?
Yeah, great question. Where the larger ambition for 2030 for us is to help improve the well-being of 1 billion people who are living in underserved communities or are vulnerable with the essentials for a better life that we offer and provide as a company and an organization and a set of brands. We want to do that with the smallest environmental footprint. So we have a sort of a broader ambition about cutting our footprint in half by 2030. We're already challenging ourselves to start thinking about the second half, if you will. So we've got a good pipeline of really exciting initiatives in the works that help us to achieve our aspirations. But we're continuing, as always, to look beyond that even.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then as for delivery, I know you mentioned a lot of data-drivenness and a lot of interim and short-term initiatives. So could you provide some insight on what kinds of collaboration and initiatives need to sort of get going now to make sure that those new targets get met in time?
Yeah, great question. I'm a strong proponent for the need for systems change to drive really significant, scalable, and sustainable changes in the world. I'm a strong advocate for that. And the partnership angle on it is critically important in that situation. As we think about the multiple partners within and across the value chain and the value network of our organization, we need to find those partners that we can can engage in the conversation more proactively, so that we can share those common outcomes and goals. So that includes like customers, consumers, and how their expectations around quality and performance, but certainly around sustainability, are evolving and changing. Kimberly-Clark's product category design, our product design around the products themselves and the packaging. Suppliers, how we set expectations with our suppliers to help us to deliver against some of those goals. And then certainly, thinking through pre-competitive collaborations, where other CPG players can team up with us to try and help influence those systems, and external organizations like NGOs, right, that help us to see more clearly current state versus what future state needs to be. What I fully believe is that when everybody along that value chain or in that value network is seeing the value and realizing the value in a shift, then it becomes much more sustainable through time, and can really change the outcomes ultimately. We've got some experience with that with our fiber supply chain. Long-standing relationships with organizations like the Forest Stewardship Council, WWF's Global Forest and Trade Network, and a lot of supplier collaboration to sort of say, how do we take those ideas and those principles of responsible forest management into our supply chain, and then tell our consumers about that, so that they feel like they're making a difference as well when they choose our products with FSC labels on them, for example. Mm-hmm. We have to now, going forward, really pivot that to our plastics footprint, if you will, which is a big part of our 2030 goals. Our in the UK, our Huggies Tiniest Footprint project and initiative is a really great example of how we're starting to look at those systems changes, influence our suppliers in terms of the recycled content or the recyclability of our packaging, and how we can actually use some product innovation and design to remove plastics from the product itself. Mm-hmm. So that's a target for 2025 for that category.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember meeting up with Daniel from Kimberly-Clark's packaging team last year when he was on a visit from the US, and he talked a lot about that, about how it was hard to see the sort of blue planet effect coming on so quickly, but in a way it was easy to apply some of the learnings from fiber and forest products to plastics.
Absolutely. Dan is one of those super passionate, awesome subject matter experts on sustainability I was talking about. So he has done a ton of work with our regional team and our country teams to help bring some of these ideas to life. And it's very exciting to see the pathway that they're on.
Mm-hmm. Great. So if anyone wants to read that, I've just figured it out. I've just thought of this as I've been carrying out this talk. If you just go to the search bar on our website and type Kimberly-Clark's plastics packaging strategy, you'll be able to find that and find out a lot more information than we have time to fit in on the video today. But more broadly, I think it would be good to ask, while I still have you on the call, Lisa, about just the experience releasing a sustainability strategy in the middle of COVID-19. So last year we were teeing up to see so many strategies coming this year. A lot of businesses have strategies that expire in 2022 or that were going to expire in 2021, 22, but they were already ahead of target. And then at the same time, we've heard sort of, is now the right time to be communicating? How do we communicate? So just to hear a little bit about what that's been like, I think would be really valuable for a lot of people.
Absolutely, it has been an in-depth conversation within KC as we've been, focusing our teams and our resources on keeping people healthy and safe in our supply chain, in our employee base, and keeping our essential products running and servicing our consumers, if you will. And that all that being said, it's grabbed our attention, and rightfully so. And we had a lot of discussions internally about the right time to begin to talk about our goals and even launch our annual sustainability report. There was so much news that we didn't want to lose sight of how big and important this was with our employee base because of all of the other activities and distractions in the system. Cool. All that said, though, right, throughout the experience over the last 6 months, it's been more clear now what the purpose of the company is. That our mission has been to, or vision has been to deliver essentials to a better life. And I think the COVID-19 situation has really crystallized that for us. And in addition, there's this profound sense of importance of having a resilient supply chain as we go forward. Disruptions will occur, and some of those disruptions could be sustainability related through time. We think about changing climate, water stress, forest degradation. All of these issues could ultimately create the risks for disruption in the supply chain. So we have this sort of crystallized view on the importance of that resiliency, and it's crystallized in a few different ways. Engagement of our people, that clear mission purpose for the organization, and how that became so focused for us as over the past 6 months. The desire to really be contributing more positively, and why we exist is really driven a high degree of engagement. I'd say secondly, agility in our ways of working. We've had to make very quick decisions. We've had to do rapid testing and learning and checking and adjusting as we've been responding to the COVID pandemic. And certainly it kind of brings to light that need to reduce dependency or improve our flexibility as it relates to some of the raw materials we're so dependent on, water and energy, using less of those materials, but also thinking through what sustainable alternatives to them might exist that could give us additional flexibility as we go forward. So all of that taken together, we said, we understand our purpose. We really want to ensure that sustainability is part of how we bring that purpose to life through either the company or through our brands. And from a supply chain perspective, we've got this great opportunity now to further the resiliency in the supply chain. So all of those things, I think, taken together, made it pretty clear for us that it was a good time, as good a time as any. And we know that the investments now will make us stronger as an organization as we go forward and over the long term.
Well, there you have it for anyone that's listening and is umming and ahhing and about when is the right time and how they should go about this. Hopefully that will have been useful for yourselves. But for now, I think that's the last question we have time for today. So thank you so much for tuning in. And just a quick reminder that all of our previous episodes of Susty Talk are available on our website and on our YouTube. And to fear not, because this will not be the last recording, we will be publishing at least one of these talks a week. So please do keep an eye out for those. In the meantime, I'd love to thank Lisa for taking the time to come on the call today.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been my pleasure. Appreciate your time.
And yours. And to everyone listening, I hope you all stay safe, stay well, and don't forget to keep up the Susty Talk.